tech today. Let's see. Get this a little closer. All right, let's get this going on this way. Okay. Hi there, everybody. My name is Crispina French, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. I am a textile recycler, artist, activist, entrepreneur. I'm doing a little series with my social media platforms on Thursdays to just kind of spread the word a little bit about textile recycling and how together we can really make kind of an impact. And actually, it's working. It's working, you guys. We're actually doing it. I'm so excited. So there's a couple things I wanted to share with you. So on Thursdays, I'm going to do a little teaching. So that's going to involve just, you know, if you're interested in participating, actually I didn't do this today, but I think in the future what I'll do is post a little thing on Wednesdays about like what you might need if you want to participate in the actual teaching process or the learning process that might ensue on Thursdays. I'm having a little bit of trouble with one of my cameras here. It wants to tip right over. So I'm just going to adjust that a little bit so I can use both of my hands. I'm not sure what is going on. Can you guys on Instagram, can you see me? My camera just did something funny, and I'm not sure if you guys can still see me. Could you put a comment in the post if you're on Instagram and let me know if you can see me? Let's see. There we go. There I am. Okay. It's kind of a funny angle, but we're just going to make it work. Anyway, today I want to talk to you about recycling just bits of fabric that you might have kicking around your house. If you're a crafter and you have a stash, that I hear from so many people so often about how, you know, they have giant stashes of materials and they're just not sure how to best use them, and you know, they don't want to get involved with new materials because they've got so many things that they need to get busy with. So this is a great project for that, and I'm going to tell you a story. So this is called a stitch along, and this is a little precursor. So this is a little sachet that I made. It's all applique. The background fabric here is a wool blanket that someone donated to me. And then all the pieces that are applique on top are just pieces of random fabrics that I put together. This was a project that started last fall, and it's actually in the works now. So I'm getting back to it. The way a stitch along works, and well, it's a collaborative project, and I started doing these back in COVID when COVID first started. Just about a year ago, it seemed as though a community space to share something cool, something recycled, a way to connect with people outside of your home was something that was really necessary, certainly for me, and it seemed as though it worked really well for the people who were involved. So I offered a class teaching how to make a square like this for a collaborative blanket. So each person bought the kit, they took the classes to follow along and complete the kit, and then the squares were sent back to me, and I have them actually here, and they are all done by different people across the world, and these are all going to be turned into a beautiful blanket that will be sold. And the benefit, the proceeds of the sale of this blanket will be donated to an organization in White Plains, New York, that's called My Sister's Place. And it's a place that supports survivors from domestic violence. So that is, the blanket will come together. I'm hoping, it's long overdue. I was imagining that I would get to this back last fall. So things have been really busy during the pandemic. Now things are beginning to open up a little bit, and it seems as though people are able to get outside and be around their friends and have more of a social interaction, which is just so important for humans, right? So before we were able to do those things, my role became very involved with a lot of people who just needed to have connection with just a group of like-minded textile recycling awesome people. So some things got sort of pushed to the back burner, and my stitch along is one of them. But today I want to talk to you about how you can make a square, or just a little piece. Start with a square, make a square if you want to every week, every month, whatever works well for your lifestyle. And over a period of time, you'll have enough pieces that you've made that you can compile into a blanket of your own. So the way that this is all done by hand, so there's no machine sewing necessary. I have these little kits that are actually, I sell these in my shop, and it's a kit it's in a reusable envelope. It's like a little sewing kit. Let me show you what's inside here. So first there's a little, this is a piece of fabric with a bunch of needles in it that may be a little hard to see with the light. And then inside there's the palette of embroidery floss that I think this palette is called like Summer Spice, because they're spice colors. They're just so pretty together. So there's 8 colors in the palette. I do one of these palettes a few times a year. And it's nice to work within a palette because it kind of helps tie the components of whatever project that you might be working on together. And if you're working on a project where you're building squares and it's going to be a project that lasts over time, you can make them quite varied in imagery and in fabric color. And if you have that consistent thread color, it kind of does help to tie all the bits together. So I didn't bring with me to my little live stream studio all the little components that I would need to actually show you how to do it, but I did bring this. This is my most recent piece that I've made myself. So this is a bracelet, and you can see the stitching on the back, and it's just, I made this bracelet out of scrap pieces of fabric. So I have a large collection of buttons. I made a little button. I stitched that on there. I have this buttonhole that's hand sewn, and it's just, I just cut a slit through there, and I'm going to show you how to make buttonholes today. It's a great stitch. And I made this is like an intention bracelet, right? So I have, I feel much better in my body when I don't eat sugar, and I have a crazy sweet tooth. So I made this bracelet to remind myself not to eat sugar. And it's just a reminder, and I'm going to wear it. And I just like to remember, oh, when I start going for the sugar, I can be like, hey, oh, there's my bracelet, and I can really catch myself. And it's actually funny. It's a new thing for me. I was at a conference I guess it was just about a week ago. It was all online. And they suggested, the presenter suggested that we wear a bracelet to remind us to, set a goal, and then wear a bracelet reminder that we take off when that goal's been achieved. And I thought, first of all, it was a plastic bracelet, those like Live Strong. I think they started being the yellow ones. It was all about, I think it was, who's the guy that was the bike rider? I can't remember. Sheryl Crow's boyfriend, Lance Armstrong. Those bracelets that are plastic. I don't like to put plastic next to my skin because I think it's got weird chemicals in it. And call me weird. I know that it's probably just some kind of like old wives' tale, but I don't think it is. I think there's actually like crap that gets in your body from the plastic. So I thought, rather than using that bracelet that they were giving, I thought it was a really cool idea to set an intention, have it be like a goal or something that you want to remind yourself of, and have it be beautiful so that you can, cherish the recycledness of it, the making process, and also the message. So that's a good idea. And it's also a really fun size. You can get, it took maybe an hour or two just to play around with some different stitches that I was putting together. I put some little bugle beads on there, and I don't know, I just really like it. It feels really nice on. So with that idea, I want to show you how to make, I'm going to make a buttonhole in this just piece of fabric so that you can kind of get the gist of it. I'm going to fold it over because one of the things that's nice, and actually if you are deciding to make a bracelet, one of the things that's nice to do if you're making a buttonhole is make the fabric around the buttonhole kind of sturdy so that it really holds that, you know, there's a little bit of tension there. There's the hole that needs to open to fit the button through. And then it's not really going to be tight on my wrist, but, you know, it might catch on stuff and there's going to be a little bit of, you know, just tension with keeping that button there. So you don't want to use a very thin piece of fabric. You want to make sure it's got a little meat to it. So, okay, let's see. So the buttonhole stitch is actually very similar to a blanket stitch. It's just packed together. So I'm going to fold this over. I'm going to take my pair of scissors. These scissors are super awesome. They're nice and pointy. Can you see the point there? They're great for making buttonholes. They're like an embroidery scissor. And actually, I sell a beautiful pair of embroidery scissors on my site. They're made by a company, and actually these are also made by the company. It's called Ernest Wright. And if you want to learn about a super cool handmade tool company, like they make these tools for hand making by hand. It's a really cool company. It's over in Sheffield, England. It's they make really like pristine quality stuff. Can you hear? I don't know. That sound just makes me know that they're a really nice quality tool. All right, so I'm just going to cut a little hole. And actually, if I had a button, what I would do is I would measure the button and I'd cut the hole slightly smaller than the button, because your hole is going to actually wind up. You want it to be like a hair smaller than the button you want to push through it so that it's tight. Did you ever have a blouse, or I have this really beautiful linen dress that the buttonholes are just a little too big. So I don't wear it because, you know, if your buttons come undone when you're wearing your dress, you know, it's a bit of an issue. I'm going to stitch with some colorful thread today so you guys can really see the contrast, because sometimes watching on the screen makes it a little bit more difficult to kind of ascertain what is going on. So I'm going to get a piece of this very deeply colored kind of magenta thread. And when I'm sewing with embroidery floss, generally speaking, I sew with 3 strands at a time. And you can sew with 6 strands, but I like a little bit of a finer finish. And actually, a buttonhole stitch is, you know, it's kind of nice to do 6 strands if you feel like that chunky finish is going to work for your project, because it's going to cover, you know, quicker. And what you want to do is kind of wrap that cut edge of the inside of that little. I gotta put my glasses on for threading the needle. While I'm doing this, you guys, how is everybody doing out there? Are you guys is your community beginning to open up from COVID? Is that feeling safe to you, or is it feeling a little trepidatious? Yesterday I went out and I walked into I went and had a massage the other day, which felt so good. And I walked into my massage therapist. She practices out of her house, and I didn't have my mask on, and I realized as I was walking in, like, oh my gosh, I don't have my mask on. And she was like, don't worry. Are you immunized? I said, yeah, I'm immunized. She said, oh, don't worry. I am too. And I said, I feel like I'm naked. I feel like my boobs are showing. That's what I felt like. No exaggeration. So in front of the camera, it's fine, but out in the world, I'm still wearing my mask. Are you wearing a mask out there? What do you, you know, where are you tuning in from? Are you a textile recycling person? How did you find out about today? Give me a little dirt. I want to see what you guys are up to. Hello, Midnight Brown. How are you? Hi, Sylvie. Needle and Thread joined. Hello. Welcome, welcome. I'm teaching how to make a buttonhole by hand. So right now we've got this little slit in my fabric. Can you see that? So I'm going to take my needle that's threaded with embroidery floss, and I'm going to poke it through next to the hole. So it's not coming right through the hole, it's coming right next to the hole. It's about 1/4 of an inch away from the hole. So let's see if you can see that. Okay, hole, there's the thread. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the needle back in right kind of next to, very close to where it came out to start with. Okay, so here's my needle going in right next to that thread that it came out with. Okay, and then I'm going to come up through the hole that I cut, through the slit. And I'm using a kind of a large scale weave linen, which is a little tricky to work with, but why not? And then I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to wrap it around that point of the needle, okay, and pull it through. So now my needle, my thread, the end of my thread is right at the edge of that cut slit. And I'm going to go back in next to where I put my needle in the last time and come back out of the hole and make sure that my thread is wrapped around that needle. So when I pull my needle through, I'm going to create kind of like a little loop. It's very similar to a blanket stitch, if you're familiar with a blanket stitch, okay? So again, how's everybody doing? Can you guys see this? Psychic Knitter, welcome, welcome, welcome. I can only see the people, like I can see names flashing up on my screen from on Instagram, and I'm streaming on a bunch of different platforms right now. So if you're on Facebook or on YouTube, I welcome you as well. I just can't see. I can't see ya. So if you're out there and you want to say hi, let me know. Where are you tuning in from? Are you have you tuned in on a Thursday with me before? Move to the right. You know what? I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna move right over here. So here's my slit in my fabric. Can you see my finger poking through there? I'm gonna come back out and I'm gonna stitch again right next to. So I'm packing my stitches right next to each other because buttonholes get a fair amount of wear and tear just based on their you know, the buttons going through in and out. So you just want to make sure your stitches are kind of really close together so that they hold up for a nice long time. And I'm going to make a few stitches and then I'm going to hold it up so you can really see it and get a good look at it. And you know what? Just like every other kind of craft, this is kind of ancient stuff, right? Like people have been making buttonholes for a very long time. So there's all different techniques. And if you have a different technique that you've been taught over the years, not to say there's a right or wrong way to do it, just to say that this is one way of doing it. So can you see those stitches? I have two different cameras going right now. So right now we're showing Instagram. So all those stitches right close together. There's my little slit. I'm just going to go all the way around with that. Okay. So, you know, they're hand sewn. Oftentimes when I'm teaching in person or when I'm teaching and I can have interaction with people, people get worried about stitch size, you know, oh, they're not even, they're not exactly the same. Please don't worry about that. There's something so beautiful about seeing someone's handwork in a finished product, right? Like you want it to be structurally sound, you want it to function well, and you want to share the beauty that is handmade, right? We are so used to, especially in our culture in the United States, of having everything kind of pre-made or mass-produced or losing the whole kind of handmade fingerprints on it kind of feel. So if your stitches are not all exactly the same and there's some variation in stitch length and such, please don't worry, just celebrate how beautiful that is. All right, so that's my buttonhole tutorial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch all the way around the buttonhole, come back to the beginning. It takes a few minutes, and I'm not going to take the time to do that today. I don't want to keep you guys too long. And then I'm going to stitch my end of the thread around and around that buttonhole, maybe 2 or 3 times, to really secure that and to make sure that the tail of my thread will not come undone or pull out in any way, so that it's really secure and that buttonhole will last for years to come. All right, so thanks for being with me today. I encourage you to take a few minutes. If you have fabric scraps kicking around your house, if you have embroidery floss handy, or you can use any kind of thread, and make a little tiny thing. This little bracelet is just such a fun little celebration of, I don't know, it's nice and brightly colored. It's got some kind of intricate stitching there that I really love to do. And it's just a small little project, so it doesn't have to be very involved. And if you want to get into something a little bit more involved and you really want to make a sort of a commitment to crafting over the next however long it might take you, you might want to start with some squares. Make a square every so often, if it's once a week, once a month, whatever it might be. Maybe you want to get really into it and do one a day, which would be a lot of work. But over time, you know, if you make 25 or 49 squares, depending on how big of a blanket you might want to make, you can take those all later and compile them into a blanket. And if you stay tuned with me here on my social media, you will see these squares made by amazing collaborators all over the country become a beautiful, beautiful blanket over the next week or so. I'm really excited to see how it comes out. And then that will be for sale. And like I said at the beginning, the proceeds of our Stitch Along blanket will be supporting a very amazing organization down in White Plains, New York, called My Sister's Place. So look them up if you have a second and you want to support an organization that supports survivors of domestic violence. That would be a great place to start. Anyway, have a great rest of your Thursday. Thanks for tuning in with me. I'll be back weekly Thursdays at noon with a fun little something to do with textile recycling. I will teach you what I know, and I'm also all ears. So if you guys have a tip or a trick or some little tutorial that you would like to share, or that you would like me to share, you've seen me share before, please let me know. Leave a comment for me, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much.